it takes a while for people to find their voice within a group of people.
Was it a mutual decision to quit, or was it your decision back then?
I think it wasn't really. It was more a kind of a feeling of for this to have any chance of being anything again, we need to take a break from it. You know, I think it'd been 12 years. We'd been working pretty solidly together. And so it was more about taking a break, really, and for people to have chance to reassess who they were like then, rather than 10 years before, I think, you know, to kind of catch up with yourself a little bit, you know. So, but that kind of ended up being maybe 4 or 5 years to actually figure that out. And so I think, I think within that time, for me, I made 2 solo albums, but I think that for me was in a part of trying to understand something. I think when you're so involved in a group of people creatively that when something begins to falter, you wonder if it's within yourself rather than within a kind of a relationship, you know. And I think that for me, for a long time, I was trying to figure out if it was maybe my own music dying rather than just the relationship of this band that was. But I think ultimately it was simple. I think we just ran out of a collective desire, you know, to make something together, you know.
When did you find out that it hadn't to do with music dying in yourself?
I think gradually through making the solo albums that I kind of, I still felt so kind of connected to the desire of making something, I think, you know. So, and I think they kind of helped me realize that, but also kind of, I suppose, helped me realize the importance of working in a band environment, that when it works, when there are like a group of people together, collectively looking for something, but all with different ideas, all bringing something, you can make things with that so unexpected and so much more than you could ever imagine, than being yourself, you know. And it was around that time that David and Neil especially kind of wanted to try and do something together, and it just kind of forced an issue really of how to carry on, what we kind of need to do, what we kind of it kind of created a blank canvas for us to set out how the band should work, what we're looking for, you know. So it was that was a kind of a starting point of a rebuilding, really, you know, that's carried on till making this record, you know.
And if you compare, let's say, how do you look back on those the last 2 albums? The first album was The Hungry Soul.
I think for those, I think the Hungry Saw it had, and this isn't talking about the songs either, but in itself it had a foot kind of stuck in the past and a foot trying to kind of step into the future, I think, you know. And I think it was hard for us to, you know, subconsciously, I think we were aware of that we were making a Tindersticks record, but it was a new thing. I think from that, I think making the last album was about breaking things down. I don't think it's the most complete record, but it was important for us to make something of a moment, you know, to trust in a moment, just to see what happens, you know, in a period of time, and to trust that, you know. But I think it would have been a fluke if that would have, the way it was made, for that album to kind of hang together. I think for making this record, it took us a year to make, and a lot of thought, consideration went into the shape of it, the attitude of it, the way, the kind of I suppose the sonic kind of landscape of it, the way it felt. Those were kind of really important to figure out, to make something that was kind of complete, that had its own world, but also had a beginning and a middle and an end to it, you know.
Did you trust each other completely now again?
I think we have a whole, you know, I think with you know, also in the last like five years, you know, we have 2 new members of the band, and I think with the Hungry Saw and with Falling Down a Mountain, you know, it takes a while for people to find their voice within a group of people, and I think that with making this record, it was very much made as a 5-piece band, you know, like working together, like with an equal voice to take this to where it was going. And you know, that wasn't true, you know, for Earl Harvin working on Falling Down a Mountain. He was kind of thrown into this kind of mixture of ideas of what was going on. I think with this album, he had a very kind of specific kind of input very much involved in it, and the same with Dan McKenna. So it's very different in that way. It's evolved into, you know, we've turned into a band, you know, it's not just about the 3 of us, you know.
Band again.
Yeah, no, definitely, you know, I think it's